Stand up, NFL fans. Week 2 of or New York Giants fans. Usually, obviously, I'm a predominantly New York Giants fan, but week 2 of the NFL season is about to kick off. So I figured I did my week 1 picks. I got absolutely destroyed. Probably like a lot of people. There were a lot of shockers week 1 in the NFL. We'll go over some of those as well before we jump into the week 2 picks and just how surprising it was week 1 around the league. Really excited to dive into it. Before I bring on my guest, the way that we're going to do this now, from here on forward, I already have a guy lined up for next week, but the following week, I'll probably ask you guys a trivia question from within stream to decide who's going to come on. But I'm going to go head to head against the subscriber each and every week. The winner is going to, if you beat me, you got to beat me. You got to earn it. But if you do beat me, you'll get a fitted cap. We'll see how I do against you guys. We'll keep track of the record. It'll just be a lot of fun. I'll go over some of the rules after I bring on my first guest. But thank you to everybody for being here. Before I go over the sponsor, just going to say hello to a couple people in the chat. Any Music Live, Sean G in the chat, Jay in the chat, Papa Guzzo in the chat, Raphael doing in the chat, Jaha in the chat, Andrew Christopher, hi to you, diehard Giants fan in the chat, Brandon Cummins in the chat, Michael in the chat, Freddie in the chat. Before we bring on the guest, let's go over the sponsor of the channel, Prize Picks. Easy app to use if you guys are interested. The promo code I'm going to show you guys in a second. But if you go on your cell phone, you download the app, it is simple. It's over-unders on, quarterbacks, running backs, whatever it is. We'll show some of the lines throughout the stream. And I'll share the website with you guys. It's as simple as that. If you log on to your laptop, whatever else it may be, I'll go over some of the lines in this stream, who I like, who I don't. But it's over-unders. Daniel Jones, 210.5 yards. You think he can go over? You think he can go under? So that's the sponsor of the channel. Easy. It's fun. It's kind of like fantasy football, just with props. They have all the sports. They have baseball. They have basketball. They have everything that you could potentially be interested in. So I wanted to give them a quick shout out before we get started. We'll dive further into them throughout the stream. Some of the picks that I like, some of the picks that I don't. But let's dive into it. Let's bring Wolves on the stream. There's the promo code, 100% deposit match. Use code Entertainer Prize Picks. Wolves, welcome aboard.
What up?
What did you think of week 1 before we get started on week 2?
Week 1, I was all over the place, if I'm being perfectly honest. I was looking at the Texans, Colts, the Saints, Falcons. Part of me knew that the Falcons were going to blow it just because it's a habit. Saints and Colts. No, not Saints and Colts. Texans, Colts. That was a real shocker.
Yeah, I listen. You look at some of the scores around the league. I got it pulled up right here. I thought the Bills would win. I remember picking them on Twitter before the game, but nobody thought they were going to win 31-10 on the road against the defending Super Bowl champions. The Giants were a bit of a surprise. Titans were a 5.5-point favorite going into the game. Saints Falcons was actually closer than I thought it would be. I personally thought the Saints would win that pretty easily. They didn't. The Bears beating the Niners by 9. I don't think anybody saw that coming. The Steelers beating the Bengals. I kind of could have seen that. I took the Steelers in that game, not to win, but to cover the spread. The Eagles, that was closer than maybe some people may have thought against the Lions. It was a 3-point game. The Dolphins, they definitely showed that they're for real week 1, or at least they look so. Going up against Belichick, they controlled that game start to finish. The Ravens, not really a surprise there. Washington taking down the Jags. But there were, there's a big one. The Colts versus the Texans was a tie. I don't think anybody saw that coming. The Vikings destroying the Packers.
That was fun to watch.
That was fun to watch. The Chiefs absolutely dismantling the Arizona Cardinals, and Pat Mahomes looking legit. And then they doubled it up with another win this week on Thursday night. We're obviously not going to go over that game. And then, the Cowboys losing by 16. But there were a lot of surprises. Mainly the 49er game for me. Yet the Colts tying with the Texans, the Giants beating the Titans. So there were definitely a lot of surprises week 1.
I really think Cliff Kingsbury is done after this year, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, listen, if you would have asked me going into the year who's on the hot seat in terms of head coaches, it would be Kingsbury for sure with the Arizona Cardinals. I think it's put up or shut up time for him. They've exceeded expectations to some degree, at least, being that he inherited a really bad team, but they haven't advanced in the playoffs, and they play in a really tough division in the West. So I kind of agree with you. I think they have to take that next step, or Kingsbury could be out. But the guy that I really think is on the hot seat is the guy we're going up against this week as Giants fans, and that's Matt Rule.
Guy we wanted.
Yeah, the guy we wanted. I think his job's on the line more so than anybody else.
Mike McCarthy, his job might be on the line.
McCarthy too, absolutely, especially with Dak going down. He could be in big trouble this year as well. Bad luck there. But What do you think about the games this week before we jump into them?
The games this week are just, to me, they're just such as bamboozling. I have 3 favorites. We picked 3 favorites, which will be double the amount of points that we normally had. And my three favorites, those are the games I'm most interested in and the games that I'm most confident in.
Yeah, so the way it's going to work, guys, before we get started, and for people that may come on in future weeks to try to knock off Tana, you're going to get 1 point for each game that you pick correctly, and then we're going to have three favorites at the end after we go over all the games. Those games will be worth 2 points, and we'll tally up all the points at the end of the week, and we'll see who is the victor. So really looking forward to it, going over all the games. The one thing that really stood out to me before we start to jump into these games, some of the spreads are insane. I think there are 3 or 4 games where it's a 10-point spread.
Yeah, those were the spreads that are at first bamboozling, and CBS was very deceptive as to who the home team was. So that was very deceptive there. But as you look at it, it's like, okay, maybe, but not really. Well, yes, but actually no, maybe, so on.
Yeah. So Eric Garrison says, so what about the underdogs? How many points for that? So we're not picking straight up winners. We're picking against the spread. So when you pick an underdog, it's just as likely that they'll win as the favorite. If you pick an underdog getting 5.5 points, if they lose by 4 or 5, you still win. So you don't get extra points for picking an underdog. We're picking against the spread. We're not picking outright winners.
Yeah.
I
prefer straight up, but
this just makes it more challenging. But let's jump into the week 1 picks provided to you by Prize Picks. First game we're going to go over, the Baltimore Ravens taking on the Miami Dolphins. This game is in Baltimore. Ravens are favored by 3.5. Give me your pick. Give me your line of reasoning.
So I picked the Ravens, and here's why.
Mm-hmm.
Miami only scored 13 points on offense. The other 7 was a sack fumble.
Right.
Under a Joe Judge offense. A Joe Judge run offense, which we know as Giants fans very well. And the pick is 5.5, yeah?
Yeah, no, 3.5.
Oh, 3.5. Well, then that just solidifies my point even more. I don't see Miami holding out for too long. They're going to make it a game throughout the first, 3.5 quarters, but I see Lamar running away with it, both figuratively and literally.
You're probably right, and I'm probably wrong. I'm buying a little bit into Miami after week 1.
Wow.
I think Baltimore wins, but I think they win by 3. I think Vegas has this number right around where it should be. I'm going to slightly lean towards Miami in this game. I'm not a huge believer in Tua, but I am a believer in their offensive play caller and their weapons over there in Miami. I think they could do enough in this game to keep this game competitive. Going up against Baltimore, of course, you got to worry about Lamar Jackson. I know Baltimore's off to a 1-0 start, but who did they beat? They beat Joe Flacco and the New York Jets. So I'm not going to fully jump on the Ravens train quite yet in terms of them being like a Super Bowl team. I like them. I definitely think they're a playoff team, but I kind of think Miami's a playoff team too. I think they're a 9 or 10 win team. I'm a believer in the team that they're putting out there. I think they lose, but I think they keep it close enough to cover the 3.5. I'm going to have it something like 23-20 Ravens. I think it'll be a close game, but I got Baltimore winning, but I got Miami covering the spread.
Okay.
All right. Next game, New Orleans Saints home. So this game's in New Orleans. Divisional game, taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bucs favored by 2.5 on the road. Give me your thoughts. Give me your pick.
I'm a very superstitious guy. I honestly have the Saints winning this game based solely on superstition. Like James Winston was harassed in the pocket last week against Atlanta. Despite all that, I'm just going with my gut. I think New Orleans is gonna at least cover the spread, but they're gonna make it definitely very challenging. But I just have them winning.
So based off that spread, yeah, I was gonna say it's only 2.5. So if you're gonna pick them, you think they're gonna win the game.
Yeah.
I definitely get you on that. It's a divisional game. And I didn't get an opportunity to look at their history recently when they went up against each other. I know that Brady struggled early on against the Saints. I think the year that he won his Super Bowl.
He's 0-4 against the Saints in the regular season.
Yeah, 0-4.
And also, Brady just didn't look that good last week, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, you're not buying into Brady this year.
Not really. I mean, the Bucs are going to the playoffs just because it is Tom Brady, but I don't see them getting past the wild card. I see Tom Brady having a similar year to 2019 with the Patriots.
You're probably going to be right on this, and I'm probably going to be wrong once again. I'm taking the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Brady to get his first win against the New Orleans Saints since he's been a member of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm not the biggest believer in the Saints this year. They barely beat who I thought is one of the worst teams in the NFL last week with the Atlanta Falcons. I think they beat them by 1 point, if I'm not mistaken, right? The Bucs, Yeah, Dak goes down, but they were in control of that game with Dak in there. Their defense looked really good. Like you said, Brady looked a little bit off. I expect Brady to come out a little shaky. Wasn't really playing too much in the preseason. I still think Brady's smart enough to be a very good quarterback, obviously from within the NFL. And I'm just not a big believer in the Saints this year. I know it's in New Orleans. I didn't like the Saints a lot coming into the year. I don't like them much coming out of week one. I thought that they would really manhandle the Falcons. So because of that, even though it's on the road, even with the history of Tom Brady going up against the Saints since he's been a Buc, I think Brady breaks the trend. He needs to win by 3. He's going to do it. Give me the Bucs. Give me the Bucs. So far we did. This is interesting. So far we disagree on the first 2 games. We'll see how it all plays out.
Davey Anonymous says he thinks Brady is finally losing it. What do you think about that?
People have said that for the last 7 years, and he always seems to prove people wrong. So until such time he proves people wrong, I'm still going to be a believer in Tom Brady. That's my answer to Davey. Next up, we've got the Jets going to Cleveland on the road. Browns. Well, no, for the Jets, it's on the road. It's in Cleveland. The Browns are favored by 6.5 at home. So they got to win by a touchdown. Do you think Cleveland, home with Jacoby Brissett, can beat the Jets by 7 or more?
Yes. One person will beat the Jets, Nick Chubb.
Yeah. That was it. That's all you need to say. You're like, it's easy. It's easy. It's the Browns. Yeah. It's Nick Chubb. This is the first game we're going to agree. And if you're a Jet fan, listen, don't kill the messenger. Your team sucks. I mean, I got to tell you the truth. I don't want to lie to you guys. You guys got Joe Flacco at quarterback. And I just don't see how you stack up against this Cleveland Browns football team. I just don't. I don't think the Browns are an incredible team with Watson out, but the defense was great last week. The way that they were able to run the ball was certainly impressive going up against the Carolina Panthers, who the Giants take on this week. They ran to the tune of almost 220 yards. They have one of the better offensive lines in the sport, and I think they're able to control the ball. I'm not a believer in Flacco. They got a great pass rusher over there with Myles Garrett and a good overall defense, and I just think it spells disaster. And I think Cleveland's going to cover that 6.5. I think I'm going to probably 10 to 14 points. I like the Browns in that game. So we agree on our first game. We both got the Browns covering spread against the New York Jets.
What would happen if we agreed on every game, right? What if we agreed on every game and it all?
If we agreed on every game, I would have to do like a total points for like one of the Monday night games, and that would be the tiebreaker.
What if we agreed on the points?
Well, we'll worry about that at the end. Like if we're tied going into that Monday night game, I will contact you, and if we have the same pick in that Monday night game, and I'll ask you what you think the total points are going to be, and that's how we'll do it. Okay. I doubt that's going to happen because we've already disagreed on the 2 out of the first 3 games. But that's a good point that you bring up. So
I already have 51. I just spoiled it. I already have my points set.
You already got your points set. All right. Well,
for Monday night.
Save it. Next up, another divisional game. You've got the Colts going to Jacksonville. Jaguars, of course, last week narrowly lost to they lost by 6, but it was a very close game. And the Colts tied with the Houston Texans, which nobody saw coming. Jaguars are getting 3 in this divisional game, going up against the Indianapolis Colts. What do you think, man?
I'm still conflicted on that. I mean, I picked the Colts to beat the spread, but I just don't like either team. I don't like either team with the spread.
Yeah, it's a good spread. It's a good spread. Like, like in terms of like the way they said it, you think it's going to be right around that?
It's going to be right. It's going to be right around that. Like I can see that game going either way. Like, yeah, the Colts have Matt Ryan, but he's like washed. And unless what's his face can really step up with Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence, I just don't see. I can't visualize one way or another.
Yeah, I hear you, man.
I picked the Colts though.
You're taking the Colts, so they got to win by 4 or more. You're going to take the Colts to find a way to cover that spread.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of conflicted on this game as well. Not so much because of let me just see the spread again one more time. I just want to make sure it's 3. Yeah. It's not so much that because I'm a huge believer in Jacksonville. Even though I do think they can be a decent team this year because I do believe in Lawrence. I think he's going to be an improved quarterback this year. But it's more so I was so disappointed with the output by the Indianapolis Colts. They were lucky to tie that game. And from what I read, Pittman is questionable in this game. I haven't gotten an updated result on that. I only know that because he's on my fantasy team, so he may or may not play in this game. All that being said, despite the fact it's in Houston, I can't imagine the Colts looking as bad. I'm sorry, despite the fact that it's in Jacksonville, I can't expect the Colts to look as bad as they did week 1. I have to think that they find a way to bounce back. But at the same time, Jacksonville seems to play the Colts tough. Last year in a must-win game, didn't they destroy the Colts?
Oh, I completely forgot about
A,
that.
a game in which the Colts needed to get into the playoffs. They
Yeah,
just seem to
the
play them tough.
Colts have never fared well in Jacksonville. It's like it's similar to the Patriots going to Miami. The Colts just can't seem to do anything in Jacksonville. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, so I mean, by no means would I be surprised at all if the Colts cover this because I definitely think they're the better team. But the fact that Jaguars have a good history against them, the fact that Lawrence looked relatively good after the first quarter or so in that Washington game, and I do think he's trending upwards. Like you said, I think this spread is right on the money. I would probably pick the Colts to win by 3. But if you ask me to go one way or the other because of the history, because they're at home, I'll take the 3. Give me the 3 and give me Jacksonville in that game.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, Pittman is out. Chad is saying so.
So Pittman's out. So that's a factor as well. I'll give you an opportunity before we move. You picked the Colts. You said you forgot about a couple of things. Do you want to switch to Jacksonville or are you going to stick with your guns?
I'm going to switch to Jacksonville. Yeah, that is very helpful.
All right. So we agree on 2. We disagree on 2 so far.
Okay.
I think that game can go either way. I really, like you said, I really think that spread is right on the money. Next up,
our game.
New York Giants versus the Carolina Panthers. Give me your thoughts.
2019 draft day.
By the way, 2.
2019 draft day. Daniel Jones, the surprise pick by Dave Gettleman. Shortly after, Baker Mayfield disses Daniel Jones. We missed the opportunity for Daniel Jones to smack it to Baker because he was injured in 2020. That combined with the Giants' newfound fire, that combined with Carolina just not being a good team, combined with the Giants' better coaching, combined with Barkley being back, even though CMC might be a formidable passing threat, and I say passing threat, I don't think he's going to do much on the run, the Giants are winning this game, both in terms of straight up and the spread.
Yeah.
They're going to rally behind their quarterback and win the game.
I love it. I love it.
They're going to rally behind the quarterback.
As you know, I'm very superstitious, but in this, I'm going to give my honest prediction. In my prediction video, I picked them to lose because I'm trying to keep this the mojo going. But listen, if I was betting on this game, I'd pick the Giants. I'd pick the Giants. By no means do I think we're going to blow them out, but it's only a 2-point spread. And I'm not sold on it because the Giants have a lot of players out on their defense. They're missing their 2 best edge rushers. They're missing their cornerback, too. So Wink's definitely going to be put to the test in this game. But I like the Giants in this game. When you look at what Carolina did week 1, and don't tell me that they didn't try to factor in on stopping the run against the Cleveland Browns. They had to. They had Jacoby Brissett at quarterback. And we all know that the Browns are known for grounding and pounding with that offensive line. And I'm not telling you we're going to be able to do what the Browns did against them because the Browns have arguably the best offensive line in football. But I do think the Giants are going to be able to establish a ground game. I do think that Saquon Barkley is going to be able to run the football on this team. And if they're able to do that, I think it's going to open up opportunities in the passing game, whether or not Kadarius Toney's playing or not. I think the Giants are going to be able to move the football against this Carolina team. On defense, like you said, you got to worry about, obviously, McCaffrey and Robbie Anderson. I think Robbie Anderson is definitely a guy I really worry about. I think they're going to need safety help over the top, but they're definitely going to look to hit him with some big plays. I think it'll be a close game, but in the end, I think the Giants are going to win, and I think they're going to cover that too.
Yeah, they are, definitely.
Close, though. I think they win by like 3 or 4. I think it's going to be a really close game. I don't think we're going to blow them out. I respect Carolina. I think they have talent, but I'm going to narrowly pick the New York Giants to cover that 2 points. So agreement again.
Yeah, I also want to say this. Christian McCaffrey may be a better football player, but Saquon Barkley is just a better runner, in my opinion. Which
brings me to my first prize picks pick of the week. And you know I got to incorporate the New York Giants with this. As I said, if you just popped in, sponsor the channel, prize picks. Basically, it's just a prop bets. You can bet on over and unders with player stats, whether it be rushing yards, passing touchdowns, rushing touchdowns. I went to the Giants game. Saquon Barkley on their website right now. You guys get a 100% deposit match if you join. Make yourself some money. 74.5 yards over or under. I saw that number. He's going over. That is my first prize pick of the week that I like. I think he goes over. I think the Giants stay committed to the run, regardless of how much they're going to try to stack the box. He's going to be heavily utilized in this game. And I like Barkley to have 75 yards more or more in that football game. Give me the over. Saquon Barkley rushing yards.
He's getting at least 100.
I love it. I love it. I love it. He said, over, is that a steal? Sign up with the promo code.
It's too good to be true.
Money.
By the way, no Mets, no Nets, no Jets is saying, who said Tony is not playing? Didn't something come out recently about him having like a hammy or something?
Who was it?
No Mets, no Nets, no Jets. Who said Tony is not playing? He said it in the chat.
It's not official he's not playing. He may be limited. I think he's probably going to play, but I don't expect him to get a full game's worth of reps.
Yeah, definitely.
Because he's been questionable all week. He only had 7 snaps last week. He's had hamstring issues. They may keep him out. I wouldn't be surprised if they do. But some of the routes they showed him running on Friday yesterday, he looked like he was relatively healthy. So I think he's going to play, but we'll see. But I don't expect him to get, a full game's worth of snaps for sure. But I think we're going to be able to move the ball, and I think it's going to start with Saquon Barkley.
Yeah.
All right, next up, New England versus Pittsburgh, two of the more historical franchises, at least recently, in the AFC conference. You think about Brady, you think about Big Ben, but you got two completely different teams now. Now you got Mitch Trubisky, you got Mac Jones. In this game in Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh is getting 2 points coming off a win against Cincinnati, in which I think they created, 5 turnovers? I think Burrow had 4 interceptions in that game. And the Patriots look lackluster, like we said earlier, against the Dolphins. Yet in Pittsburgh, granted, TJ Watt is out, maybe the best defensive player in football. The Patriots are favored on the road by 2. What do you think about this game?
The Patriots are favored by 2 on the road. I don't see why. Joe Judge, we as Giants fans know Joe Judge very well. And even though Bill Belichick is a coaching genius, all that, he's one of the greatest there is, the Patriots are not winning this game in Pittsburgh. And, Trubisky is mid. I think actually Najee Harris is out, which could change something. But it's going to be the Patriots just getting in their own way. That's going to do it in for them. Because, we know Joe Judge. He's not really good with offense.
Yeah, I mean, looking at this one, if I was going to make a pick in this game, I might like the under, and it's really low, as it should be, 48.5 points. But I don't see either team putting up a ton of points. Now, you never know in a defensive game. There could be turnovers and pick sixes and so on and so forth. But I'm not a big believer, like you said, in that Patriots offense. I'm not a big believer in Mac Jones. And quite frankly, I don't think the Patriots are either. I mean, they won a game last year where he threw 3 passes. I know he had a pretty good rookie year, but I'm not a big believer in Mac Jones. I'm just not. And even without TJ Watt, I still think the Steelers have a very good defense. And I think this is going to be a really close game. And I said going into the year, this was obviously with TJ Watt on the team, that I thought the Steelers would be a playoff threat. And a lot of people were really down on them. They had them as the last place team in the AFC North. My thoughts obviously changed on them a bit now that they're missing their best player after week 1, but they looked impressive on defense against the Bengals. Obviously, Watt had a lot to do with that. I'm not a big believer in Mac Jones, though. I'm just not. And the fact that the Steelers are getting 2 at home, not super confident in this game without Watt, but I'm going to take Pittsburgh. I'm going to take Tomlin to be ready for this game home. I think Pittsburgh finds a way to win narrowly. I think it'll be a really close game. So far, we've only disagreed on 2 games, and ironically, it was the first 2. But I do like the Steelers here getting 2 points. I do.
Yeah, definitely.
Next up, Detroit, Washington. The Commanders going to Detroit. Detroit favored by 1. Detroit is 0-1. Looks somewhat impressive, at least on offense, not so much defense. Against the Eagles, they lost 38-35. Washington won 28-22 against the Jaguars. Yet Detroit is favored at home by 1. What's your take on this game?
So the Washington defense, they've been hyped up a lot, but they just never lived up to it. It's Carson Wentz versus Jared Goff. I think with both of their performances last week, it's just going to come down to the quarterback. And I think that the Washington Commanders, I almost said Redskins, I think they're going to take it. I think they're just going to – I think they're going to win on the road. With that being said, though, the Lions are not going to make it easy. They're going to have to earn it. The Commanders are going to have to earn it. But I just can't see the Lions winning this game solely because of Carson Wentz, who had a really good game last week.
Our third game, we disagree.
Okay.
I'll lay the point. I'll lay the point with Detroit at home. And the Commanders, like you said, looked pretty good last week. Wentz certainly looked good, which is why he's going to be my second prop pick, by the way. On this game, Wentz, if you go to Prize Picks, the over-under is 1.5 passing touchdowns. I think he's going over that.
That's a steal.
I think he will throw for over 1.5 passing touchdowns against that Detroit defense, a defense in which we saw Jalen Hurts and that Eagles offense put up 38 points. So I think he will put up points. But on the other side, I think Detroit will put up points as well. I think they'll be able to run the ball. They're home. I think it's going to be a loud stadium. The other thing I'll factor in there is their second straight home game, because I think they played the Eagles at home, if I'm not mistaken, week 1 as well. Yep. So there's no travel. So they're going to be a bit more rested. It's always an advantage, I think, when you play 2 straight home games. I think the crowd's going to be jacked up. They saw what they feel is a pretty good product week 1, despite the loss against the Eagles. And I'm going to lay the point, and I'm taking the Detroit Lions. So that's our third game that we disagree on, but I do like Wentz to have a pretty good game. I do like him to throw for over 1.5 touchdowns, but I think DeAndre Swift runs wild, and I think Goff does enough to find a way to get a win at home.
Yeah, I want Detroit to win with all my heart because, I want the Giants to excel, obviously, but I just can't see it happening, in my opinion.
I hope I'm right and you're wrong, and I think most Giant fans hope the same.
Yeah, root against the small guy. All right, how dare you?
So here we go. Next up, Niners, Seattle, huge spread, and like I said at the top of the stream, there's a couple of big spreads. This is one of them. Niners are home, 9.5 point spread. The Seahawks had the upset of the week, in which they beat the Denver Broncos. Geno Smith, at least in the first half, second half he cooled off a bit, but in the first half looked great. And it was a big shocker. So are you, and obviously the Niners were the other biggest upset of the week, but it was against them, in which they lost 19-10 against the Chicago Bears. Vegas says, we don't care. We're still going to set the line high. We still believe in the Niners. We think it's nonsense. We think it was a fluke week 1 on both ends. Do you agree? 9.5 point favorite, Niners.
Whoever the people are in Vegas, I just need somebody to arrest them because we can't allow this stupidity to reign supreme. The Niners are going to win the game, don't get me wrong, but 9.5 points? What are you smoking? Like, what are you smoking? 9.5 points?
And I'm going to tell you what, call me stupid. Call me stupid, just like you call Vegas stupid, because I'm siding with Vegas. I'm taking the Niners. This is the 4th straight game we disagree on. Whenever I look at the spread and Vegas is begging you to bet one way, I go with Vegas. Vegas does not lose, and I think Vegas looks at this spread. They set it at 9.5, knowing that the betting public is going to jump all over Seattle after the week that Geno Smith had last week, and I think it was a fluke on both ends. The Niners had Trey Lance made his debut start. The conditions in Chicago were horrible, which is why I'm buying Trey Lance this week. By the way, that's my third. 199.5 yards. I think he's going over the yards. I think people are going to overreact to his first week performance in the muddy conditions. I think he's going to go over the yards. I think the Niners are going to blow him out. My honest prediction. You look back at that Seattle game, they won by 1 point, but let's be real. The Denver Broncos fumbled twice on the 1 yard line. Denver should have won that game by 14 points. So I'm still not a big believer in Seattle. I'm just not. I think this 49ers defense rips Geno Smith to shreds. And I think Trey Lance has a big game. I think it's an overreaction. I think people are going to bet this game because of the overreaction, because of what you just said. I'm not buying it. I still think the Niners are for real. I still think Seattle stinks. And I'll lay the 9.5, and I'll take the Niners.
Just be happy that New Jersey legalized weed. Otherwise, you'd be going to jail right now.
We'll see. I might look like a complete fool, but I'm laying the 9.5. I'm going to take the Niners. I'm not a big believer in Seattle. Just not. Let's go. Next game. You got the Rams versus the Atlanta Falcons. Another huge spread.
Rams at home.
This game is home for the Rams, right? We said that before the stream started.
It's easy. Rams.
So the Falcons this past week narrowly lost. They almost beat the Saints. And the Rams got embarrassed. They lost 31-10 against the Buffalo Bills. So do you think they could cover 10?
They are pissed. They're not going to let that happen to them again. And it's against the Falcons, right? And the Falcons may make it a game for like the first half, but if Matthew Stafford gets his head out of his ass, I think the Rams are just going to stomp all over them. I don't see the Falcons lasting very long in that game.
I'm going to tell you what, after week 1, I'm a little concerned for Matthew Stafford. A little bit, right? Because the guy had injury concerns in the preseason. So I'm a little concerned with him. All that being said, I agree with you. I think the Rams at home are going to cover that spread. I think the Falcons are horrible. And I think the week 1 performance against the Bills, first up, it was the Bills, who I think are probably the best team in football this year. I have them winning the Super Bowl.
Yep.
But secondly, I don't think the Rams are as bad as they looked. I think it was probably a week 1 hangover. I think they'll respond. And I think they'll beat up on an opponent week 2 and really build some confidence. And I think they're going to try to go out there and destroy this football team. I don't think the 10 points is enough. I hate laying that many points. I could definitely see a backdoor cover here where maybe the Rams are up by 14 and they score a garbage time touchdown at the end of the game. So you could certainly lose in that aspect. But I think the Rams are going to control this game start to finish. And if I got to pick a team, I agree with you. I'm going to take the Rams to cover that 10 points.
Yeah.
Next up, Denver, another team that was shocked week 1. The Texans going to Denver. Denver, of course, opened up on the road in Seattle, in which Russell Wilson went up against his former team. Broncos favored by 10. Texans look better than people thought week 1. They tied the Colts. What do you think?
Once again, the people in Vegas are smoking something. They just be happy they're in Vegas and not in Alabama. Otherwise, they'd have the feds all over them for smoking all that weed. 10 points. I mean, Denver's winning that game just because it's the Texans, and they're definitely going to want to retaliate. But Dave Mills looked really good. Russell Wilson is a thief. He's probably the most wanted criminal in America right now. So Denver is going to win, but it's going to be a very unconvincing win.
I must be a pothead.
Yeah, you are. I mean, you're a New Yorker, so.
Because I'm smoking again, and I am going with Vegas again. Because of the exact thought process that you had, I think people are going to look at the spread. They're going to say, oh, my God, how in the world could you take the Denver Broncos? They lost in Seattle. Houston was able to tie the Colts. I think it's a classic situation, like I said about the Niners game, of an overreaction for two teams. I think one team that is really bad came out and surprised week 1, and they kept the game a lot closer than people thought. And I think one team that is pretty good. I still think Denver's one of the top 10 teams in the league.
No, they're not.
And laid a stinker week 1.
They can't. Dude, a 13-year-old would have managed that clock better than what's-his-face. Okay, my 6-year-old cousin who doesn't even know football could have managed that clock
I
better.
agree. It's one of the worst coaching decisions of all time. But like I said, if Denver doesn't fumble twice on the 1-yard line, they win that game by 13 points.
Well, that's a habit with Russell Wilson, is whatever team he's on, they always turn the ball over at the 1-yard line. So
They do. They definitely do. And I could certainly understand why you're making the pick you're making. I'm once again going to lay the 10, and I am going to take the Denver Broncos to cover. I think they're home. It's a tough place to play. Houston is an atrocious football team.
That's true.
I still think Houston might get the first pick in the draft this year. And I still think Denver's a contender in the AFC. I'm not saying they're a favorite, but they're a contender. I still think they're a good team.
No, I don't like the Denver hype at all, if I'm being perfectly honest.
I may not love the Denver hype, but I love them in this game. I'm laying the 10.
No.
Give me the Denver Broncos. All right. Next up, you've got the Raiders taking on the Arizona Cardinals. This game is in Las Vegas.
Home against the Arizona Cardinals. Cliff Kingsbury, who last week proved he can't coach for anything. The guy who had a losing record with Patrick Mahomes in college. The guy who actually devalued Patrick Mahomes in the draft, actually. I'll even make that argument. 5.5 points. I think Vegas is being generous there. Again, they're being very generous. They're smoking something. Raiders easily cover.
I was thinking about taking the Cardinals here, but I'm not a big Cardinals guy. I'm just not. I never have been. And they're missing Hopkins. The Raiders made a ton of offseason acquisitions, and they were pretty competitive week 1. So I'm going to be in agreement with you on this one. I don't know if they're going to destroy them, but I think the Raiders will narrowly cover that 5.5. Maybe they win by 7, 8. But I think that spread's about right. That's about where I'd have it. But yeah, I mean, basically what Vegas is telling you is the Raiders on a neutral field are only 2.5 points better because generally speaking, it's 3 points you give to the home team. So with that being said, I think the Raiders are better than 2.5 points better, especially with DeAndre Hopkins out for the Arizona Cardinals. I think the Raiders are a good football team. They're much improved with some of the acquisitions they've made this offseason. So I'm going to go with you on that one. We're going to be in agreement here. I think Vegas is smoking on this one. I'll take the Raiders as well.
All right, you're only smoking weed, not meth. So,
so let's see. We got, I think, a couple more games here. One of our biggest rivals, the Dallas Cowboys. And this game, where was this game? This game is in Dallas.
Yep.
Dallas Cowboys are home against the Cincinnati Bengals, the former AFC Conference champions. The Dallas Cowboys in this game are getting 7 points with Dak out, obviously, and that's the major factor against the Bengals. The Bengals coming off a very disappointing loss week 1 in which Burrow had 4 turnovers. Somehow they still should have won that game. As they came back against the Steelers, they missed a chip field goal, not just once, but twice. Once at the end of regulation and once in the overtime period.
I thought that missed kick in regulation was – no, I thought the missed kick was an extra point.
Oh, I think it was an extra point. It was an extra point. But they missed an extra point that was, I think, blocked, and then they missed a kick in overtime. But they lost, surprising loss. Many thought the Bengals would win. Now they're favored by 7 on the road against the Dallas Cowboys. What do you think about this game?
Even though Micah Parsons is going to have a field day with Joe Burrow because that offensive line is absolutely atrocious, and even though Ezekiel Elliott might have a good day, I just think the Bengals are just a better team overall. I think the spread is actually right on the money here.
Yeah. So you think it's a push then? Like if you think it's going to be 7?
I mean I'm going to pick the Bengals to cover the spread, but realistically speaking, I think it's going to be a wash. I think it's going to be like 24-17.
By the way, guys, should have mentioned this before. I forgot to put it in the description. I will put it in the description after. That's the website for the official sponsor. If you put the promo code in right there, Entertainer, you'll get 100% deposit match on your first deposit if you're interested. PrizePicks.com. As far as this game goes, I'm in agreement with you with the pick. I'm in disagreement with you that this game is going to be that the 7 points is right. I think they're going to destroy the Cowboys. And maybe I'm too much of a Giants fan to bet logically with this game, but no Dak Prescott. Could pin it in the chat. Yeah, I'll pin it right now. That's a good call. Let me pin it real quick.
Actually, I need to reword what I said, 24-17. So it's going to be like 24-10, but they're just going to score late garbage time touchdown.
Okay, I could see that. I just think Cincinnati comes out pissed off after week 1. You saw how resilient they were, even with all the interceptions that Joe Burrow threw. I don't see him doing that against the Cowboys. Last year, I know the Cowboys were a very opportunistic defense. They actually led the league in turnovers created, I think. I don't think it's going to happen again. I don't see Joe Burrow having another game where he throws 4 picks.
But he's still going to get harassed, which is going to really affected my choice. So if the Bengals had like a half competent offensive line, no question, it'd be like 38-10. But just because Micah Parsons is who he is, and considering that line is atrocious,
yeah,
I see the defense kind of holding out, but not for very long, which goes into
why you think it'll be a 7-point game. Yeah,
a 7-point game with just a late garbage time touchdown.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think the Cowboys are going to be devastated with the Dak injury. And I see it maybe 14. I think Cincinnati's going to beat them pretty handily. That's just my prediction, but we'll see. Regardless, we both agree on the pick. We're both taking Cincinnati in that game. I just see it being a little bit more lopsided than you do.
Shout out to Mask Deadly Dashy.
Hey, Dashy, man. Thank you so much, man. He says, I think the Bengals bounce back with a win tomorrow. Yeah, no, I think we both think they're going to win. I think it's going to be a little bit more lopsided than Wolves thinks, but we both think they're going to win. And he's a big Bengals fan. But yeah, I think you guys get to 1-1 this week, Dashy. So I think we've disagreed on 4 so far?
4 of them.
Okay. And I think we're coming to the end. We got, I think, 2 more games left?
Yep.
And that's going to bring us to or maybe 3 more. That's going to bring us to Green Bay versus Chicago. Green Bay looked really disappointing last week, right? And now they're going up against another divisional team. They lost to the Vikings last week. Packers are home, favored by 10 against the Chicago Bears. Another huge spread. Do you think it should be that high?
So Aaron Rodgers, week 1 is not his bread and butter. We saw that last year in neutral territory. My line of thinking is going to be the same with the other big spreads, at least with most of them. I think it's going to be like a 9-point game. It's going to be like it's going to be late in the game. The Packers are going to just try to close it out with a field goal with a minute left, and then maybe the Bears score a garbage time touchdown and then fail the onside kick, whatever. I don't know. I just don't trust the Bears to cover the spread.
So,
wait, hold on. Wait, am I
The
smoking?
Packers to cover the spread.
Wait, am I smoking? I don't trust the Packers to cover the spread.
Packers are favored by 10.
I don't trust the Packers to cover the spread.
So you like the Packers to win by about 8 or 9?
Yeah, I'm smoking right now. So
I think you made a great point. That was the point I was going to bring up. Aaron Rodgers, historically, you go back to last year, sucks week 1. Last year he was horrible week 1, and I think a lot of people are going to jump on that. They're going to panic because now Devontae Adams isn't there. I think Aaron Rodgers bounces back. I think Aaron Rodgers has a good game, and I don't think the Bears are a good team. So I completely understand why Vegas has this as a 10-point spread. But because it's a divisional game, and because I could see like a backdoor cover where the Packers are up by 14 or 16 points, and maybe the Bears score a garbage time touchdown, factoring that in, and because of that, and I'm getting 10 points, which is a lot of points for a divisional game. If it was 9.5, I may side with the Packers, knowing that if they win by 10, I still win. But being that 10's a push, and being that I could see a backdoor cover, I think the number's right about where it should be. I think the Packers win easily, but I'll go with the Bears to lose by less than 10. I don't love the pick, though.
Yeah.
But I think the Packers are a much better team. Next up, you got the Buffalo Bills taking on the Tennessee Titans. Where this game is in Buffalo.
Yep.
And once again, another 10-point spread. And this was the number 1 seed in the AFC last year. But, of course, last week the Titans lost to us. A game in which they should have won. They missed a 47-yard field goal, but they lost. But the Buffalo Bills look so impressive. I cannot fault, especially being that they're at home, I cannot fault for Vegas setting this line at 10. They beat the Rams by 21 on the road. So what's your thoughts on this game?
Vegas is 100% right here. I just as much I mess with Tennessee this year. I want them to succeed because Malik Willis. I go to Liberty, but I can't see Tennessee covering. I can't. The Bills are going to smoke them.
Yeah.
I mean, I want Tennessee to do something in this game, win. I want them to win for the rest of the year because now that we beat them, I don't care. But I just don't see them doing much against the Bills. They may keep it competitive for a little bit, but the Bills, they're just too good of a team.
Yeah, this is another game where I'm like not in love with it because 10 points is a lot, and a lot of things can happen in a 10-point game. And if Derrick Henry could get the run game going, I think they could keep it close. But I just think the Bills are super impressive. They were my Super Bowl pick coming into the year. The most impressive thing for me, at least with the Buffalo Bills week 1, was their defensive line. I mean, obviously everybody's drooling over Josh Allen, and I love Josh Allen. He's my favorite quarterback in the league. I think the most naturally talented quarterback in the league. But the Bills' defensive line was what impressed me the most. And if that defensive line continues to play at that rate, they're going to be really tough. If the Titans are going to win this game or keep it within the 10, Derrick Henry's going to have a big day. But being that the Giants were able to shut him down, why can't the Bills? If they stuff the box and they force, Ryan Tannehill have to throw the football. So because of that, I think Henry probably has a similar game. I don't think they'll completely shut him down, but a similar game to that of which he had against the Giants, 20 carries, 80 yards, something like that. And I just think Josh Allen is just too much, for that Titans defense, whether it be with his legs or with his arm. And I think the Bills will cover. I mean, if they went on the road against the Rams by 21, you're telling me they only got to win by 11 at home to cover the spread? I'm going to take the Bills, and I'm going to take them to cover. I think they're for real. I don't think week 1 was a fluke at all, as impressive as they looked. I'll have them by about 14-17 and covering that 10-point spread. So I'm going to go with you, man. I like the Bills in that game.
Right.
And I think we got one more final game. And by the way, anybody that is in here, if the Giants win, I'll make this promise right now. If the Giants win, I will stream this game on Monday night because obviously it's the Eagles. We'll all be excited to hopefully see them lose. If they don't, I'll relax. I'll watch the game and just be rooting against them. But in Philadelphia, both teams coming off of wins. Vikings win more impressive, I think, obviously due to the fact they beat the Packers. Eagles beat the Lions by 3. But regardless, both of them coming off wins. Both teams, I think, are, at least for me, and I'll talk more about it when it gets to me, but I think they're about even in terms of talent overall. But it's in Philadelphia. Eagles favored by 2. What's your take on this game?
One way or another, this is going to be a revenge game. Like, just in general, it's going to be a revenge game. Revenge for who? We'll see. Why? Jalen Reagor.
I like it.
So,
I like it. Justin Jefferson, Jalen Reagor.
Justin Jefferson. So my friend is actually an Eagles fan. One of my closest pals is an Eagles fan, and we were talking about this, and he was saying that Jalen Reagor was going to go off, and I'm like, you know what? I can actually see that happening. I can see Jalen Reagor, Justin Jefferson, all having great days. And even though the Eagles do have, what's his face, A.J. Brown, is it?
A.J. Brown was a beast week 1.
Yeah. I think the Vikings are just a better team. You know, Kirk Cousins, I think, is just a better thrower. I think he is one of the most underrated quarterbacks, along with Derek Carr, in the entire league. I think the Vikings are going to win this in a nice shootout.
I'm going to tell you what, man. I think you hit it on the head with Kirk Cousins. I don't get the hate for Kirk Cousins. I don't think he's an elite quarterback, but I think he's overhated. Do me a favor, guys, if you're watching the chat. Tell me the difference between Dak Prescott and Kirk Cousins, because I don't think there is one. Statistically, they're very similar. They both have one playoff game win, I think. Cousins may have 2. I think he only has 1. Dak, I know, only has 1. They're both good regular season quarterbacks. I don't get the hate for Kirk Cousins. I agree with you. I think he's one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the National Football League. Was incredibly efficient last year. And I think he's going to be incredibly efficient this year. He's in a better offensive scheme. And if you go back and look at Minnesota last year, they lost a ton of games in the last drive of the game. Like, they lost a lot of close games. So I'm in agreement with you. And I said going into the year, I like the Vikings to make the playoffs and maybe even potentially win the North. And I am siding more with that opinion in terms of winning the North after last week, being that they were able to knock off the Green Bay Packers. I am a Vikings believer. I'm also an Eagles believer. As much as I hate that football team, I do think the Eagles have talent on both sides of the ball at some of the most important areas. They have a very strong offensive line. They have a very strong defensive line. They have a much improved secondary, obviously, by adding James Bradbury, being that now he's going to be their cornerback too. He had a pick 6 in week 1. So I am a believer in the Eagles. I think they're a good football team, but I think the Vikings are a better one. I really do. And it is in Philadelphia. So I understand why the Eagles are favored by 2. I'd probably have it more as a pick 'em. I think this game go either way. I think it's like a 50-50. I just think the Vikings are better. And I didn't love the way that Eagles defense looked in week 1. They gave up 35 points to the Detroit Lions. Now you're going up against a much more high-powered offense with Cousins. You look at all the weapons he has on that football team. I mean, they are all over. One of the top 3 or 4 wide receivers in the sport. Obviously, one of the better running backs in the sport. Cousins, I mean, pick who you want to throw to. He's got tons of weapons. So I think they're going to move the ball. I think they're going to be able to put up a ton of points. And if I was making a bet in this game, I'm betting the over. I think it was 51.5. We talked about it at the start of the game, before the start of the stream, rather. I think it's going over. I think it's going to be a very high-scoring game.
64 is my pick.
I think it's going to be very high-scoring, whatever it may be. And I think the Vikings are winning, and I think they're going to win outright. So I'm going to agree with you on that as well. I think we differed on maybe 4 or 5 picks.
Yeah, so we can just go through them. So
that's what it's going to come down to is where we differ. But now is where it gets really interesting, because now we got to pick our 3 bonus games, our 3 games that we're most sure of. These games are going to count double the amount in terms of points. They're going to count for 2 instead of 1. All the others will count for 1. I'll tally it all up. We'll keep track of the record. I'll get the next subscriber on next week when I'm 1-0 and I kick your ass. And
no, you're not.
But give me your 3 games that you are most confident in. We'll go one by one. Give me your most confident game first.
So my most confident game is going to be the reason why you're going to be 0-1. It's the Giants and Panthers.
Giants and Panthers. No, I picked the Giants.
Well, I doubled mine, so that's why.
Oh, you doubled yours, so you're going to get an extra point for it. Okay. So you're most confident in the Giants game to cover those 2 points.
Yes.
Yeah, they're not my most confident. My most confident, my first of 3 bonus games, I'm taking the Bucs minus 2.5, and you took the Saints in that game.
Yeah.
I'm taking the Bucs minus 2.5 on the road in New Orleans. I just don't believe in the New Orleans Saints this year. So that's going to be my first bonus game. I'm taking the Bucs minus 2.5.
My second bonus is I'm taking the Steelers against the Patriots at home against the worst offense in the league.
So you get your Steelers +2. That's your second bonus game.
Yes, 2.5.
My second bonus game. Don't kill me, Jets fans. Cleveland Browns -6.5. I think they cover. I think they cover relatively easily. I don't see the Jets doing a good job stopping that run, stopping that offense. And I don't believe in Joe Flacco. And I think the Browns have a really good defense, so they'll create some turnovers. I think they run away with that game. So that's my second bonus game. Give me your third.
My third, Eagles-Vikings, actually. And my over-under, I think I said it before, is 64.
Okay. And obviously you like the Vikings getting
65. 65.
So you think there'll be 65 total points in that game?
34-31.
I like it. And you like the Vikings to win outright, getting the 2 points. So that's your third bonus.
Yep.
My third bonus. I just want to make sure the Bengals were favored by 7, right?
The Bengals were favored by 7.
That's my third bonus. I like Cincinnati to bounce back and win that game by 10 plus. I think they're going to manhandle start to finish. So I got the Bengals, the Browns, and the Bucs as my 3, locks, if you want to call it. You got the Giants, you got the Steelers, and what was the third?
Giants, Steelers, Vikings.
Giants, Steelers, Vikings. Do you think your fan bias came into that decision at all, being that you're a Giants fan? You took the Giants and the team going against the Eagles.
No. It's solely based on the fact that Kirk Cousins is going to have a great year this year. He's going to have a really good year this year.
I agree with you on Cousins. I think Cousins is going to have a big year. And I think the Vikings are going to have a big year. I think they're going to win at least 10 games.
The reason why is because Mike Zimmer's gone, and now they have a real coach. So I think Kirk Cousins is going to show his true potential. And is he going to win the Super Bowl this year? No. Deep playoff run? Maybe. Is he going to make the playoffs? No question.
I had a lot of fun, man. You made a lot of interesting picks. Let's go over real quick the games we disagreed on. We disagreed on what did we disagree on?
New Orleans.
With the New Orleans game for sure, we disagreed on. Let me put an X next to that. We disagreed on Miami, the first game. I took Miami. You took the Baltimore at 3.5.
Yeah.
You took the Giants. You took the Colts. You took the Steelers. You didn't. Did you take the Lions? You did, right?
I took the Commanders.
You took the Commanders, so we disagreed there. You did not take the Niners like I did, so we disagreed there. You took Seattle.
Yeah.
I
took Houston.
You took Houston
to beat the spread
against who are they playing again? Denver. That's right. So we and I think that was the last one. I think we agreed on the Bills, the Vikings, the Packers. No, I'm sorry. We both picked against the Packers. The Bengals. Yep. So we disagreed on 5, and those 5 games and the bonus games are going to be who determines.
I thought it was 4. I'm getting confused now.
The Miami game, the Bucs game, the Lions game, the Niners game, and the Broncos game.
Oh, okay.
Those 5 games we disagree on. We'll see who wins, and a lot of it's going to come down to the bonus pick. So I'm looking forward to it. Had a lot of fun. I will be live later tonight with LPG, license plate guy. If you don't know the abbreviation, he's the man. I'm not too sure what time. I got to get to him on Twitter. I was going to set it up for 8. He asked me if it could be a bit earlier. I'm still waiting for him to respond as to what time he can come on, but figure around 7 maybe. I'll set up the stream when I get the time. But we're going to be live. A little hype up stream. We'll be talking about tomorrow's game. I'm really looking forward to it. But I just want to say thank you, Wolves, man. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for being a good sport. Good luck this week.
I mean, you're going to go 0-1, but,
how confident are you? How confident are you that you're going to beat me?
I am so confident that I already have room for my hat, so.
Oh, you know what? I would ask you what your hat size is, but I don't think I'm going to have to.
Yeah, you are. You
all
know,
right,
I mean, there are one size fits all. So I mean, I'll just send you the link now for what hat that I am looking at. But you know,
have a good day, everybody. We'll stick around for a couple minutes after, but have a great day, everybody. Thank you to everybody for tuning in. Thank you guys for all the support you always show on the channel. If you are picking these games or if you are betting these games, good luck this week. Really excited for the Giants game tomorrow. You know I'll be live for that, calling the game. So come on by. That'll be on my channel this week. Really looking forward to that. And have a great rest of your day. Hopefully I see some of you guys tonight for the Giants stream. Have a good night, everybody.